Alright, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for registering and welcome to the second series of EDSA National Webinar Series 2020 Online Learning and Assessment, What Research Says About Them, presented by EDSA IAIN Syekh Nurjati, Cirebon. Firstly, let me share about the rules for this webinar. They are, first, the webinar will be held from 1 p.m. till the end Jakarta time, and the participants must mute the microphone during the webinar. And in question and answer session, the participants can directly give their question by typing the question in the chat box or sending the emoji raising hand to give question orally to the speaker. Please state name and institution. And there will be no attendance list in this national webinar, but participants must fill out the feedback form shared in today to get the e-certificate. And the e-certificate will send through the email maximum 3 days after the event. And the participants are not allowed to leave the WhatsApp group before downloading the e-certificate. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there is a series of agenda that we will go through. First, we'll have the opening, and then we'll go through the main agenda, which is the national webinar, and after that, we'll have the closing of this webinar. Dear participants, we are entering the first agenda, which is the opening. Let's open the webinar by reciting Basmalah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's straight to the main agenda. As I have mentioned before, this national webinar raises the topic of online learning and assessment, what research says about them, by presenting an extraordinary speaker for this second series. He is Mr. Dery Tria Agustin, M.Pd, and this national webinar will also be guided by an outstanding moderator, that is Mr. Zakky Yavani, M.Pd. Here is his curriculum vitae. He was born at Cirebon on 7 June 1984, and his education, he got his bachelor degree at Unisma Malang on 2003 to 2007, and then he got his master degree at Universitas Negeri Malang on 2011 to 2013, and he is a lecturer at IAIN Syekh Nurjati, Cirebon, and another his working experience, or he is also an editor-in-chief of ELT Eco Journal from 2016 to 2020, and he is also an English instructor at LBPP Lia Cirebon 2013 to 2017, and he is a lecturer at Stiba Infada 2013 to 2015, and he is also an English tutor and coordinator of academic instructors at LBPP Lia Malang from 2011 to 2013. Well, from now on, the webinar will be taken over by Mr. Zakky as the moderator. Dear Mr. Zakky, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for the time given. And also thank you very much for the moderator who has already attended the meeting, and all the participants, and also thank you very much for the committee who has run this national webinar. And this is the second day of the seminar, and we are going to have a very interesting topic to discuss by Mr. Dery Tria Agustin. Okay, but before we come further, allow me to read his curriculum vitae. Okay, his full name is Dery Tria Agustin, M.Pd. Okay, he was born in Majalengka, August 12th, 1989. His religion is Islam and nationality is Indonesia. Okay, his background education, he is currently a PhD candidate at Faculty of Education, Monash University, and he took master program at Universitas Negeri Semarang, okay, majoring Master of English Language Educations. And his undergraduate program was taken in IAIN Nurjati Cirebon. Okay, so he is actually an alumni of this university. Right. Okay. This is the contact persons. Okay, Dery Agustin at Monash Edu. Then this is a phone number. Okay. 01423411. Okay. Then this is working experience. Okay. The first in September 2019 until now, he is a faculty of education, Monash University, and he has a casual academic research assistant or RA for the ACEN project. Okay. In November 2016, he also participated in Kaseta homeschooling in cooperation with the International Organization for Migration or IOM as a project tutor. And in 2016-2017, he becomes an English. He is in English Center as an English tutor, and in 2014 to 2015, he participated in Center for International Language Development or CILAD, Sultan Agong Islamic University or Unisula as an English instructor. In March-June 2014, he worked in LP3I Business College Semarang as an English lecturer. In September 2012 till May 2013, he worked in Center for Language Development, IAIN Nurjati Cirebon, as an English lecturer. Okay. These are some working experience of our speaker today, and he also published some articles. So he wrote some article, and then the first is journal titled "The Use of Bahasa Indonesia in the Intensive English Classroom," which is published in English Education Journal, Volume 5, Number 1, 2015. Second, he also wrote book chapters, titled "Learning to FITK in Intercultural Awareness in Student Supervisor Feedback Practices." Right, and then the third is a book titled "Menghubungi Calon Supervisor," contacting potential supervisor. In edition of Roller Coaster 4 musim. Lika-liku perjalanan studi doktoral mahasiswa Indonesia di Australia. So it's kinds of telling the writer experience studying in Australia. Right. So another experience is about presenting topic materials. And in year 2018, he participated in EAARE or ISCAR as a Pacific Cultural Historical Activity Research Summer School in Dawson, New South Wales, Australia as a presenter. And in 27 to 29 June 2018, he also participated in the 16 Asia TEFL, first MAL and 6 HAAL 2018 International Conference in Macau, SAR, China, as a presenter. So this, so our speaker also have experience to give some topic and presenting some materials to certain institutions. Award. So the speaker also became awardee of two prestigious award, I think. The first is Beasiswa Program 5.000 Doktor, Mora Scholarship in 2016, a Ph.D. scholarship awarded by the Directorate General of Islamic Education, Ministry of Religious Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. And the second is Beasiswa Studi Indonesia Preparatory School atau BIPS, batch 4, a training scholarship awarded by Beasiswa Studi Indonesia. Okay, right, so the next. Okay, without further, right, so those are the curriculum featured that belong to our presenter today, and this afternoon, okay, we are going to dig up more the topic about, especially about our condition today, that is the pandemic situations which cause some shifting social interaction and also teaching and learning process in EFL setting. Okay, without further ado, so ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Dery, and Mr. Dery, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pa Zakky, for the introduction, and let me share my screen. Could you see my screen?
Okay, yes, we can see your screen.
Great. All right. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much for the committee and also to the head of English Language Education Department, Pak.Pd, and also the secretary of the department, Pak Faruk, for inviting me to this national seminar. And as mentioned earlier by Pak Zakky, I did my bachelor's degree at EIN Cirebon. So basically, I was part of the department. So I'm very happy to be invited here to join here, although only virtually. And when I was contacted by Mbak Nindi, one of the committee members, about the topic and also the speakers of these webinars, at that time I knew that well, the first speaker would talk more about digital tools that can be used for the organizations of online learning, and the second speaker would talk more about theories of assessment. At that time I was wondering, how can I best fit to the conversations? How can I contribute to the conversations? I didn't want to repeat what the speakers would have said, so I came up with the idea that, well, maybe I'm going to present something different. I'm going to approach the topic from quite a different perspective to provide you with a different or another point of view about online learning and assessment in relations to the current situations. So today I'm going to talk about how to promote student well-being and learning during COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. And these are the things or the topics, the subtopics that we are going to discuss. All right, they are in the form of questions. The first is, we will go through this. We will answer these questions one by one. The first is, what is student well-being? And then, how does student well-being relate to academic achievement? How has COVID-19 been impacting the general population and student well-being? How has COVID-19 been impacting student learning? And last, but this is the most important one, how can we support student well-being and learning in an emergency or critical situation, such as the current COVID-19 pandemic situations? So without further ado, let's answer the questions one by one. The first one is, what is actually student well-being? The definition and dimensions. There are, of course, different definitions of student well-being, but by one account, so I pick one definition, it is defined as a sustainable state of positive mood and attitude, resilience and satisfactions with self, relationships and experiences at school. And well-being is divided into some dimensions. We say that, let's say there are 5 dimensions of well-being. The first is psychological physical well-being, psychological or emotional well-being, cognitive or mental well-being, social well-being, and spiritual well-being. So basically, somebody can be said to have the sense of well-being when they are physically health, psychologically health, cognitively health or mentally health, socially health, and spiritually health. And then the second one, how does student well-being relate to academic achievement? There are research about this. There are a lot of research investigating the relationship between well-being, engagements, and learning or academic achievements or learning outcomes. And the result is, for example, here, as you can see in the right-hand side, we can see that there are three important concepts here. The first is well-being, and then engagement and achievement. The first one is the relationship between engagements and achievement. A meta-analysis of 69 independent studies revealed profound relationships between overall student engagement or active involvement in learning activities, including emotional engagement and academic achievement. And also it is found that student well-being is very crucial, is crucial for learning engagement. So as can be seen in the left-hand side, we can see that this is the interrelationships between well-being, engagement, and achievement. So engagement, student engagement in the learning activities, for example, will promote achievement. And at the same time, engagement promote well-being. And being well, for example, will promote engagement and promote achievement. So that's how dynamic it is. That's how interconnected it is. So for the rule of thumb, to make it easy, we can just say that in order for students to achieve something, to achieve the learning objective, for example, they must be engaged in learning activities. And in order for them to be engaged, they must be well, physically well, emotionally well, cognitively well, socially well, and spiritually well. But then the question is, how has COVID-19 been impacting the general populations and student well-being? We know that COVID-19 is not only about the virus. It's not only about the virus. It is also related to other social activities like the COVID-19 news, COVID-19 related restrictions, working from home, learning from home. And based on the research throughout the countries, not only in Indonesia, but also in other countries, all of these things have caused mental health issues in the general populations, including students globally and in Indonesia, such as anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, psychological distress, and also stress. How massive it is. And the question is, this is a critical question that we need to address, we need to reflect, we need to think about this. How has COVID-19 been impacting student learning? So if the student well-being have been significantly impacted by COVID-19, the virus, for example, by the news, by everything, by learning from home, they are impacted. How about student engagement? Are they engaged in learning and teaching activities? Are they engaged in the online learning environment? We don't know. I hope somebody is doing research about this. And then the next question is, how much do students learn? How much do students learn? Or we can also ask, do they learn at all? Do they learn at all? I'm afraid I contacted somebody who is teaching at primary school, for example, and we are not sure whether or not students learn. So we need to conduct research, how much students learn and whether or not they learn at all. This is very important for the continuations of our educations. So how can we support student well-being and learning in emergency or critical situations, such as the current COVID-19 pandemic situations? What can we do as teachers? What can we do as educators? What can we do as researchers? First of all, we need to realize that our learning and teaching activities does not take place in a vacuum. It happens in context. It happens in context. We need to ask ourselves, first of all, why we do online learning, why we teach online, why we deliver the lessons online. The answer is, of course, it is clear, because of the COVID-19. We do teach online not because we want to do so. It's not something that we have planned before. It is something that we need to do in order for education to keep running. So the question is, are delivering lessons online and having students participate in virtual classes sufficient for learning to occur? Is it sufficient? And actually, we are not doing online teaching. We are actually doing, yes, we deliver the lessons online, but we are actually doing emergency remote teaching using all digital technologies. Yes, that's online, that's right. But well-planned online learning experiences are meaningfully different from courses offered online in response to a crisis or a disaster. So the psychology of the students, the psychology of the teacher, the psychology of the people in general, the parent, including the parent, are different now. We are all different. We are not ready actually to approach this. So we are still trying to do which one is best, which one is not. We are still trying to. We have tried our best, yes, but there are still many things that we need to improve. So the thing is that how we approach online learning in the critical situations should be different from how we approach online learning in normal situations. We should not only focus on how we can deliver lessons remotely or online, but also pay attention to students' well-being, especially psychological or emotional well-being. So in addition to familiarizing ourselves with and learning different types of digital technologies, yes, it is so important for us to learn digital technologies. In fact, we cannot meet face-to-face without digital technologies. It is important to deliver the lessons, but we also may need to consider other things, such as promote school connectedness, promote online learning engagement, teach students skills for independent study, enhance social emotional learning, for example, teach students online safety and digital literacy skills, conduct assessment for learning, and the last, and this is most important one, for the long term, develop a national framework for student well-being and learning. Let's talk about this one by one. This is just reflection for us, because as I said earlier, we are not really sure what we should do. We are still trying to, everybody is still trying to find the best thing to do. We are all learning. So the first one is promoting school connectedness. Do we promote school connectedness? How have we promoted school connectedness? So what is it? School connectedness is more about school belonging, school attachment, school bonding, school climate, school connection, school engagement, and teacher support, which is realized in the quality of the relationship between the students and the teachers, between students and the schools, between students and other students, and between schools and the local community, including parents. And this is good. This has potential impact for student learning. Why? Because better school connectedness is also linked to increased engagement at school. And we know, as I mentioned earlier, engagement promotes academic achievement and also school completion, reductions in anti-social disruptive behavior, and lower rates of health risk behavior. So first of all, we need to build this. It is, yes, it is not easy to do this, especially amid all the restrictions, all the different infrastructure, different contexts, different student situations. It is not easy, but we need to try. We need to find a way to do this. And then we need to promote online learning engagement. We need to do that. I'm going to present the current practice, what we do today, and teachers' perceptions and also student perceptions of what's going on now. First of all is, as you can see in the left-hand side, in terms of the digital tools used for teaching, teachers are using both asynchronous and synchronous applications. For example, WhatsApp, email, and for synchronous one, they use Zoom and Google Classroom. I will not explain the difference between synchronous and asynchronous, as it has been explained yesterday by Mr. Daniel. So yes, the teachers use this, and is this effective? Teachers also, a study also found that in terms of the teacher perceptions, about 63%, as we can see here, 63% of the teacher think that it is not effective, and other think that it's ineffective at all, and 33.3% think that's ineffective. So for researchers, for example, for students, higher education students or mahasiswa, maybe you can do this research, how effective it is to use. You can do follow-up research about the use of asynchronous application and synchronous application for teachings. And that's from the teacher's point of view. It's not effective. Most of them said so. And from the students now, Yes, it has pros and cons. The positive side is that online learning keeps education going. It keeps students staying away from the virus, but also a student said that it is confusing to adjust to. It is more stressful than regular classroom, and they are being stuck alone with nothing but assignments, and they got heavier workload. So yes, heavier workload. So the question again is that, are they engaged with the learning? And if they are not engaged, are they learning at all? Maybe doing Zoom once is okay. For example, I have been using Zoom since 2017, and I know how tiring it is when we should meet online again and again. Maybe doing Zoom once is okay. Zooming plus Zooming twice is still okay. But if you Zoom and Zoom again, and also do it every day, every people usually experience Zoom hangover or Zoom fatigue, technology hangover, and it's not really. We need to ask whether or not it's good for learning, and most students feel that they are tired. They are tired. They feel less motivated and less engaged. And then how can we promote student learning? We know that that's the situations. So, but we still want students to learn. But we still want to engage students to learn. So what can we do? The first of all is maybe we can redefine the learning objectives, be realistic, and we need to stick to the core. And this is in alignment with what the minister, Pak Nadiem Makarim, has said. We need to be realistic because now the situation is different. We need to prioritize what is really important to keep the education running. We need to stick to the core, prioritizing the quality instead of the quantity. And we need to be more flexible. We need flexibility, more personalized learning. And maybe in addition to using synchronous application, we can use asynchronous tools for teaching, because there is one study stating that asynchronous tools have the potential benefits for learning. It can maintain connection and engagement with the students. And the students getting involved and respond to their instructor and peers at their own convenience, because this is not real time, because asynchronous is not real time, so they can respond, they can keep engaged, and as a result, there is more active participation. Of course, this study is done in other countries. We need to know whether or not we need to know whether or not it works in Indonesian context. And for students, for university students, for example, for researchers, we can conduct study whether or not it's good for the students, and what level of the students, in what conditions, for what purpose, and so on and so forth. And if you want to know more about tools that can we use, asynchronous tools, I have provided the link there. You can just click it. And then the next one is teaching students skill for independent study. This is in alignment with the 21st century skills. That in these situations, based on the OECD, for example, there are three important things that we need to prioritize. The first one is we need to ensure the continuity of academic learning for the students. The second one, we need to ensure the well-being of the students. And the third one is we need to support students who lack skills for independent study during the crisis. We need to start thinking maybe learning is learning is not only the responsibility of the teachers, but also the responsibility of the students, especially more mature students like high school students, and of course university students. So we need to not only deliver the lesson, but also start thinking about how we can develop students' autonomy, how students can feel responsible for their own learning, how students can navigate, how students can decide what to learn and how they learn. So we need to start thinking about this. And then we need to enhance social emotional learning. We need to teach students skills for coping and acting resiliently, doing things instead of doing things despite all the restrictions, all the difficulties, all the different situations, optimistic thinking, self-awareness, emotional regulations, empathic responding, goal achievement, successful relationship, and of course decision making. This is important. So now learning is not only about the material. That's important. Yes, that's important. But also we need to address the emotional aspect of the students. And then online learning means more exposure to virtual worlds. That's the reality. And also we need to, we should not forget that now there is a shift of the teacher's role. In the past, maybe the teacher is the source of knowledge, but in the present, the teacher is the source of skills and competencies required to navigate. The teacher is more of the source of the how. The central issue is to be able to navigate within the enormous knowledge explosions. The focus of learning is on navigating in the ocean of available knowledge. There are a lot of things out there in the internet. There are a lot of knowledge over there, but we also know that we also have concerns that there are many things. There are drawbacks. There are disadvantages like hoax, disinformation, misinformation, and because of the current situation, there are a lot of people getting fired, they are losing jobs, and there are increasing scams targeting kids, teens, and adults. So in addition to ask students to get involved in online learning activities, we need to teach students digital literacy skills. This digital literacy skills is more than being able to operate digital tools. That's the basics. That's IT skills. We need also to teach students awareness about which is good, which is not, which is dangerous, which is safe, which is not. So this is very important because this is we don't know how long this will last, but into the future, online learning will. Some said that we will continue doing teaching online, maybe blended learning, a combination between physical face-to-face and also online learning. But this is the thing. It's important. It's important. There are a lot of challenges there, so we need to teach students digital literacy in order for them to be able to navigate, not getting drowned in the ocean of knowledge. And in terms of the assessments, that's for the learning. And in terms of the assessment, by one account, it is interesting to see that some people ask whether or not it is good to, whether or not it is the time to assess the students. Some say to test or not to test. It doesn't mean that we should not test the student. It doesn't mean that assessment is not important now. Maybe it's still important, but it just means that we need to be very careful in considering what to assess, how we assess, because the situation is different. In Indonesia itself, for example, not all students has the gadget, has the device. Not all students has internet connection, and so on and so forth. So it's important for us to be very mindful about the assessment. And if we ever happen to assess the students, we need to conduct assessment which is geared for learning. The assessment should be geared for learning. That is formative assessment instead of summative assessment. Well, summative assessment, some say that it's still important, but most other people say that formative assessment or assessment for learning is more important in this situation, because in the shift to emergency remote teaching, students might feel disoriented. Frequent and diverse low-stakes informative assessments, such as quiz, for example, and assignments, would help students familiarize themselves to online assessment methods and increase engagement, which in turn increase learning. So that's what we really need to do. And other things to consider is, for example, the prerequisites for online assessments. We need to think whether or not the institution is ready, and whether or not the educator is ready, whether or not the institution, the school, for example, has the facility, has the infrastructure, has the learning management system, and whether or not the teacher, for example, is ready, because there are a lot of issues now. And also alignment between assessment activities and learning objective. And we know then that the learning objectives should be really defined. We need to stick to the core, and then different situations of the students with implications to the mode of assessment, whether using synchronous or asynchronous assessment activities, and the digital tools that we use, and the schedules and the time, clear communication with the students, and quality of feedback. This is important because, of course, the purpose of conducting assessment is in order for the students to learn, and in order for students to learn, students need to get feedback. What's the point of providing assessment without providing feedback to the students? Because the nature, as we know that maybe this has been explained by Pak Herri yesterday, the nature of formative assessment is to see where the student currently is, and to guide the students to achieve or to arrive at the destinations, at the learning objectives. And other things to consider is the things potentially threatening assessment validity, like whether or not the students will cheat, for example. And last but not least, in the long term, we need to develop a national framework for student well-being and learning. This is not only the job of the teachers, of educators, but also the policymakers. But we do need to really think about this from now. Maybe this time is, sort of reflection for us to really rethink and reevaluate the way we organize educations, the way we run our business educations, and to the future. We know that there are a lot of challenges there. Nothing is constant. The only constant is inconsistency itself, and everything's changing. Everything's changing. So we need to address this, because as we know that in order for we want students to learn, and in order for students to learn, we need to get them engaged, and in order for them to get engaged, they must be well, physically well and psychologically well. And last is, yes, we are transitioning online and using digital technologies to deliver lessons, but we and our students are and will always be human beings. It means that, yes, it is important for us now to be digitally literate, to be ICT literate. We need to master technology, yes, but we also need to be understand that we need also to understand ourselves as human beings. Maybe that's all my presentations. And if you want to know more about that's well-being in general and well-being in doctoral educations, maybe you can read these books, and yes, which can be downloaded in the link. I think that's all, Pak Zakky, my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for Mr. Dery. You have already explained something that is, to me myself, this is very interesting, because as a lecturer, we concern more on how we have to teach students online, and we forget those things. So well-being, yeah, this is actually not only for students but also for the lecturers.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Sometimes we got what you call it as a burnout time, when you have to deal with Zoom again every day. We have to use Zoom, and not only the students, but also sometimes we get fatigue.
That's right.
As a lecturer. Well, okay. Very nice and interesting topic to discuss. Now I'm going to give a chance for participants to have questions to ask the speaker. You may type the question, or you may directly address your question to the speaker. Right. Okay, we have one. Okay. So,
You are on mute, Pak Zakky.
okay. Do you prefer to answer one by one, or we need to collect the question first?
I think one by one should be.
We have already got one, and the question is from Okta Kurniati. Okay. Well-being jika diterjemahkan dalam bahasa Indonesia yang paling tepat apa, Pak, ya?
Apa ya? Maybe kesejahteraan. Something like kesejahteraan. Yeah. Mungkin itu, I mean, I don't know if that's the most appropriate translations, but some people translate well-being into kesejahteraan. Maybe that's the yeah, it's quite challenging. It's not really, it's not fast and hard, but yeah, that's what people use.
Okay, and also from Binti Aisyah, kalau kesehatan mental mungkin nggak Pak? Nah, katanya begitu. Kalau kesehatan mental mungkin nggak Pak? Maybe it refers to well-being kayaknya Pak.
Yeah. It includes, as I mentioned earlier, so well-being, there are 5 dimensions of well-being. Psychological well-being, when you're physical well-being, when you're physically fit, when you're healthy, and also psychological well-being or emotional well-being. That's yes, that's when you're emotionally healthy, and mental well-being also, when you're mentally healthy. So well-being is not only about physical thing, but also many things like physical, social, even when you, for example, when you're alone, when you have no friends, when you're in isolations, you cannot contact other people, you cannot communicate, you cannot get along with other people. So your well-being is impacted. So it means that you're not socially well. So yeah, there are different dimensions of well-being.
Right. This is also a question from Binti Aisyah. I missed these questions. Sorry. Okay. Binti Aisyah from Jogja. Is the presentations about dissertations by the presenter? This is a confirmation next.
No, it's not about my dissertations. My dissertation is about ideology in English language teaching. But why I talk about well-being, because last year, before the pandemic, I and my friend and I, with some international students, we wrote a book, as mentioned by Pak Zakky, about well-being in doctoral education. So at least I have some background about well-being. So I thought at the time that, well, maybe this is the time for me to talk about well-being in Indonesia, because in Australia, for example, this is one of the priority, especially in these occasions, in these circumstances. I mean, in the pandemic. But in Indonesia, some people have talked about well-being, but not much. Most still talk about how to deliver the lessons online. Yes, that's important, but I thought that, well, we need to talk about well-being as well. So that's the background. It's not my thesis, but I have a background about well-being. So I see the opportunity and I relate to the context. So I talk about this now.
So in Indonesia, we are still struggling, Pak, struggling to utilize the technology in teaching and learning.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Another question from Binti Aisyah, but I think this is personal. I think you need to have more discussion with the presenter, but I'm going to read the questions. Pak, saya ingin bertanya, apakah presentasi tadi ada deserdasi Bapak? I think you have answered this. Ada kesulitan bagaimana dalam menangani penelitian di Monash dengan kondisi seperti ini? Lalu tolong berikan saran bagaimana cara atau tips bisa tembus Springer. I think you need to have to discuss more with the presenter individual.
The topic.
Personally, I think.
Yeah.
Binti Aisyah, you may contact the presenter's number. I think Mr. Dery will be very happy to discuss more about it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And then from Habiba, what is the best way to know that our students what is the best way to know that our students are not cheating in doing the tests for online assessment?
That's very good questions. Yeah, that's very good questions. Well, as I mentioned earlier, there are some possible threat to validity in online assessment, and one of them is is whether or not the student are cheating, and that's the challenge. That's our challenge. I think I could not give you the answer how to do that, because that's something that we have never experienced before. We don't know how. We are not sure how to do that, but we know that it's possible to happen. So we need to find a way. We need to find a way, and also we need to conduct research about this, about the possibility. So it doesn't mean that I have the answer. That's why I put almost in all the sentence I put question mark, because actually that's something that we should reflect. That's something that we should think about. For example, when you are going to assess the students using a Google form, for example, or when you are going to assess students using other tools, whether in the form of chat or a portfolio assessment, for example, we need to consider that, and we don't know. We still don't know. But yeah, that's good questions. We need to conduct research about it.
Right. Okay. So next, the questions is how to cope with techno stress. This is a question from Okta Kurnianti, and then she asked how to cope with techno stress.
It's not. That's good questions. It's not. It is something that we need to be able to juggle between activities like. Well, yes, I know that in today's situations, it is hard to leave the laptop, for example. Almost every day I work on my laptop, but we need to be able to work efficiently. I force myself, for example, to work efficiently so that I can go outside. I can go outside just walking or jogging or doing something else, because otherwise I will get get fatigue, get hangover, Zoom hangover, something like that. So we need to be balanced between working and then doing activities outside. That's the only way, I think, because if you don't do that, you will be very tired. You will be very tired.
Okay. Right. So this is actually okay, an experience experienced by Arif Agakusuma. As my experience that students commonly get bored to do online learning in this pandemic condition because they every day just seeing the Android and watching the laptop.
Yeah.
So is there any idea how to encourage them to be enthusiastic joining the learning?
Yeah. Maybe as I show here in this slide, a study suggests that maybe we need to consider using asynchronous tools. Maybe we need to consider we should not only focus on how to conduct the teaching and learning online live in a real time. It's going to be it's going to be tiring. Students will be very stressed. It's tired to look at the the screen all the time. That's why here we need to be flexible. It doesn't mean that I know how. Still don't know how. Still don't know technically. Still don't know how. But we need to be flexible. Either, for example, we reduce the live session. For example, the live sessions will only last for 5 to 10 minutes, for example, and after that, we use asynchronous tools for doing other activities, for example, or for example, well, this is going to be a bit radical, but for example, we communicate the teaching and learning goals to the students, like, well, student, this is the learning objective. This is what you need to be able to do at the end of the semester, for example. And now you also have responsibilities. This is especially for higher education students, for example. Sorry, for higher school students, that you have responsibility. You can use any tools, for example. You can browse. You can do anything as long as you can achieve the goal. So we need to give students more chance to learn by themselves, to be autonomous. That's why I talk about learner autonomy. So it's not only about the teacher responsibility. It's no longer the teacher directing the students like, well, students, you need to do this, you need to do that. Now the live sessions, now the as I mentioned earlier, the role of the teacher is more about the source of how. It's not about the source of what. So students needs to be very active, using different modes, different tools like voice threads, Flipgrid, for example, or Marco Polo, or everything that you're familiar with. to learn, despite not limited by the time, not limited by the time. Maybe using even using email thread. Just somebody post something in the Moodle, for example, somebody post something, and other students will respond at their convenience, and somebody will respond again, and you monitor the students. And also I'm also involved in the currently I'm involved in a research investigating the effectiveness of asynchronous tools for supporting the development of students' identity and agency and learning when doing placements. So we communicate, we help each other, we support each other using these synchronous tools. Every time somebody has concerns, every time somebody has something to ask, they can just post, and other people, other students, the mentors, the supervisor can respond. So basically, we learn anytime, not limited by, for example, 9 to 5 or like 8 to 1, not limited by the time. Anytime, anybody who has the time can respond. We can learn. So maybe we can use that. Maybe we can use that as an alternative, as the option. But I know that's not easy because the system also needs to change. So yeah, that's our challenge for the future.
Okay, Pak Dery, we have one more question.
Okay.
Okay, this is a question from, and this is actually suggested by Dana Wijayanti, and then he found that how can students interest to join and have participation in online activity and learning online learning process. Then this is actually related to the question addressed by Sifa from Sifa, yeah? And then she asked that what about the case in elementary school? I think this is more challenging because they are still young, and how can make them interest to join online class? Well,
yeah, I'm afraid I'm not the best person to talk about how to engage elementary school students because they have different psychology, and what I talk about is more about senior high school students and also university students. So I'm not sure whether or not I can answer, but that's good questions. But I'm not sure if I have the answer. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. I think that's all. Yeah. But Dery. Okay. Then before I close, I'm going to conclude the topic today, and I start from the case proposed by Musiana Nurul. Okay, right. And this is a case that 2 or 3 days ago there was suicide committed by senior high school in a province in Indonesia. Okay, and the problem is because of there's a lot of excitement online. Okay, and this happens. Okay, maybe this because of the well-being is not exist. Things that we as a teacher, I myself think that we neglect this point. We concentrate more on the teaching and learning process rather than how to be humans, as you have mentioned in your concluding presentations, Pak Dery. Okay, those things that I can conclude that well-being is very important, not only as educators, teacher, and learner, but also as a human. We teach, we learn. Okay, students and teacher also humans, and the system's well-being is not only addressed for students actually, but maybe for also the teachers, because I think I myself need that.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, right. I think that's all. Thank you very much. Before I close, I give a chance for the presenter to give a concluding remarks. Okay, time is yours, Pak Dery.
Okay, thank you, Pak Zakky. So yes, maybe I will say a bit more about this. So yes, again, we need to understand ourselves as human beings. So we need to, what I have presented just now is something that we should address either in the long term, in the short term, or in the long term. We do need to start really thinking about this, and we need to develop this framework. We do need to develop this framework. In Australia, for example, we have this one. So this framework will allow not only students actually, but also teachers. The teachers need to be well. Yes, that's right. The teachers need to have a sense of well-being. The students need to have a sense of well-being, so that we can get more engaged. We can get more engaged in the learning and teaching activities, and we can learn, and then we can learn. So yes, this is something that we need to address in the near future. That's all.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for the nice presentations, Pak Dery, and thank you very much for all the participation who already participates to this presentation. And I do apologize for those who addressed questions, but I haven't read the questions and I haven't addressed to the presenter. I do apologize because the limited times. Okay, thank you very much for all. And I give time back to the Master of Ceremony.
All right, well, the main agenda is over. Thank you for the amazing explanation from Mr. Dery as the speaker and the nice guidance from Mr. Zakky as the moderator for today's webinar. Well, same as yesterday, we'll announce you the three luckiest one who will get the special prize from the committee. Without any further ado, here are the names. The first is Okta Kurniawati, and then Binti Aisyah, and the last is Shifa Fauziah Surahman. Okay, I'll repeat. The first is Okta Kurniawati, Binti Aisyah, and Shifa Fauziah Surahman. Well, congratulations for the participants who mentioned. You may contact the committee, which the contact person could be found on the flyer. So, before the webinar, before we close the webinar, let's play a game. Okay, here, the game is quite simple. You just need to guess the title of the movies, and we will give you some pictures as the clue. And actually, we'll show you the clue one by one in about 5 seconds each clue. But for those who able to answer even before the last clue is showed, you will be the luckiest one to get the special prize from the committee. And remember, just for the fastest one. And but for this game is for people who haven't get the giveaway either yesterday or today. Yeah. And for your information, there will be 5 movies which should guess. So prepare yourself. And wait. Yeah, actually, you may straightly type the answer on the chat box. No need to raising your hand before. And the fastest one will get the special prize from the committee. And before we start the game, I'll show you an example how we'll play the game. Okay, for the committee, you may share the screen. Okay, guess the title. So there are an iceberg and a ship or a ferry, maybe. Yeah, lots of people answer Titanic. Yeah, that's the way how we will play the game. But that's just an example, not the real game, because the real game isn't start yet. So if you guys ready, let's start the game. Okay, here the first clue. It is a bear, I guess. So, is there anyone could answer this clue already? Okay, the second clue is a castle. And then there is a rose. Okay, yeah, the in the chat box is already lots of people answer the right answer. Yeah, this is Beauty and the Beast. Okay, for the winner, we will like announce you at the end of the game, and the committee will like choose the fastest one by the system, of course. Okay, the next one is there is a London Bridge, a drone, and a spider. Okay, you may answer the complete title. Yeah, okay. There is already, I mean, okay. We got the uh, right answer, which is Spider-Man Far From Home. Okay, the next title is there is a lightning. No, not the Flash. The next clue is a bearded man and then an armor. Okay, it is already answered. Yeah, it is the Thor. So, we may go to the next question. The first clue is a sisterhood, an ice particle, and a snowman. Yeah, it is right. It is Frozen. Okay, the next is the last one. There is a magic land and then a rounded glasses and flying broom. Okay, yeah. You guys know the answer is Harry Potter. So, that's the end of the game. Thank you for participating. And here I will announce you the luckiest one, the fastest one, based on the system done by the committee. The first one is Aji Nur Rahman. Aji Nurrahman. The second one is Nuriyah. Nuriyah. And then the third one is Dadan Lasmana. The fourth is Bintang Diyar. And then the last is Siti Lailatun Nahdiah. Okay, once again, the five luckiest one is Aji Nurrahman, Nuriyah, Dadan Lasmana, Bintang Diyar, and Siti Lailatun Nahdiah. Yeah, that's the winners. So you guys also need to contact the committee and the contact person you may find at the flyer. Congratulations for those who win the game, and you'll get the special prize from the committee. Okay. Well, dear beloved participants, let's now turn to the last agenda, which is the closing for this webinar. In this agenda, there will be some speeches. The first speech will be delivered by the Chief of English Department Students Associations, or EDSA, EIN Syekh Nurjati Cirebon, to Mr. Muhammad Iqbal Fauzan. The time is yours.
Cek. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. The Honorable, the Dean of Tarbiyah and Teacher Training Faculty, the Honorable, the Head, Secretary, and Lecturers of ELT Department, the Honorable for the Chief of DEMA and SEMA FITK, and the Honorable for all the committee. And I would like to say thank you so much for all the participants who have participation in this merciful events. First of all, let us grateful to our God, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the Lord of the world, the King of the King. And salawat and salam always be praises to our God, to our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who has guided us from the darkness to the brightness. First of all, I would like to say thank you so much for the speakers and for the moderator, for Mr. Daniel, Mr. Herri, and Mr. Dery, also to our moderator in this event, to Mr. Zakky and Mr. Nizar. And thank you so much for your times, and thank you so much for your dedication to join in this our event. And also, I would like say thank you to all the participants who have participated in our events from the webinar series and in this National Webinar Series 2020. And hopefully you can take a lot of benefits and a lot of knowledge from our events. And also, as EDSA, we hope in the next time we keep creative and we keep creative to help in other events. And we have some plannings in this in the end of the years. We want to compose some agenda is international webinar series, and we hope you pray to make that agenda is come true. And also, again, I would like to say thank you to our committee for the 2 days. We have spend a lot of times this during pandemics to divide your time, divide your ambitions to help these events. And again, in this pandemic, I hope you all health and you all good on your homes and keep stay at home and don't forget to sport and don't forget to pray to our God wherever you are. Thank you so much for all the participants and for all the people who has joined this. And also, see you in the next times and see you in another chance. Maybe that's all from me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. The last speech will be delivered by the Chief of English Language Teaching Department EIN Syekh Nurjati Cirebon, as well as closing this webinar event to Mr. Teddy Rohadi. The time is yours.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa syukurillah. We all have come to the end. Yeah. But again, this is not the beginning of the end. Okay. Yeah. This is the end of the beginning. This is the beginning of the end. I mean, we still have many things to do. Right. First of all, I would like to express my admirations, okay, and my joyful, for all people, okay, that have been participating and supporting, this webinar series, okay, from webinar 1 to webinar 10, especially I would like to thank to first to Sri Kandis, okay, Ibu Listi and Ibu Osi, who have guided this program, okay, to come into reality, and second, to the chief of EDSA and the crews, okay, who have been working very hard, okay, that have yielded, okay, in this successful event, right. I also would like to thank to all participants, okay, who have registered and actively join this webinar series. Right. There's no perfect thing in the world. I'm sure, okay, in this webinar series, there are a lot of things to fix. But I'm also certain that all persons, okay, who are in charge in this program are capable, okay, to fix them. And we are very sorry for that, okay. And then we would like to be better for the next time. Right. Dear audience, this is the final moment, and I would like to close this webinar series, okay, by saying Hamdalah. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Thank you very much for all. Okay, see you in the next agenda of EDSA. Thank you.
Alright, the EDSA National Webinar is over. As mentioned before, the audiences are not allowed to leave the WhatsApp group before downloading the e-certificate, and please kindly fill out the feedback form. Well, I think that's all. Thank you very much. See you next time. Have a great day, everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Photo session.
Hello. Can we have the photo session before we end the meeting?
Oh, on camera, on camera.
For all the participants, could you please open your camera?
Oke. Wajar, Miss. Wait, Miss.
Okay, please wait a second. Wait. Okay, we'll count. 3. Wait. Wait. Okay, ready? Yes. 3, 2, 1. Okay, the next slide. So actually we have 6 slides here. Okay, the second slide, please. Please show us your best pose. 3, 2, 1. Okay, the third one. Gak ada. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, the fourth one. 3, 2, 1. The fifth slide. 3, 2, 1. The last one. 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you so much, dear participants. See you in the next ELTD webinar series. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, everyone.